Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hello to your combined Jesse and Moon Girl astrology reading.
First time ever on Zoom, but I think this will be actually better because we have our own computers with our own software, our own view of your chart. So, yeah, let's dive right in, shall we?
hmm
So, um, well, we have a Leo sun with Jupiter on it. Awesome. With a moon in Sag. So we got that fire, and then a very interesting rising at one Virgo with Mercury and Venus all at one Virgo too, all retrograde. Damn, that's crazy.
Jesse, can you share the screen?
Yeah. Although I'm gonna want to have my I'm gonna want to use my screen for some other stuff. Do you have it on your?
Yeah,
You have
I
the
have it.
triple it too. Okay, because I'll probably go in and out of sharing it.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, so I don't know. What do you think of Leo Sun, Sag Moon? Sounds like fun.
It is fun. I think it's the heart space, and I think that Jesse and I are also Sagittarius moons, so we're a little biased, but yeah, it's right on Antares.
Yep.
So your star seed for sure. Linked to the royal fixed stars. So that's linked to being an old soul. Already Sagittarius energy, you can access a lot of the wisdom within you, within um your past experiences as well. So it's a good moon sign to be in because it gives you optimism and kind of like this lighthearted energy within your emotional space, but you also can move and navigate your emotional space through the things that you've been through, which
Yeah, and just very future oriented. So you're not gonna be someone. I mean, it's in the fourth house, so I guess that can kind of create kind of a back and forth with that. But I don't see you as someone who's you know like Sag moons. I mean, you're a Cancer, so it's kind of like a little bit. But like most Sag moons I know, they're more future oriented than kind of like lingering in the past. It's about forward movement, very optimistic. Like there's a need for adventure, a need for learning, a need for wisdom. The big hang up I would say with Sag Moon is to just make sure that you're not dogmatic in your philosophies. Especially being a Leo, which can be potentially create a certain level of pride, which is good. I think like there's nothing wrong with having pride in yourself, and it's a good thing. But um, it can be a little bit stubborn potentially. So just making sure, like a lot of Sag moons go through like this period where they spend so much time learning and improving their worldview and their overall philosophy and their overall truth, and then they get to a point where they're trying to push it on other people. And I feel like a lot of Sag moons go through that. I know I did. So just kind of understand that everyone comes to um their own truth at their own time, and yeah, it can be frustrating.
mm-hmm. I mean, I also see that you have Chiron trining your moon, which is awesome because Chiron's a tricky one in the astrology wheel. Chiron is like the source of our core soul wound, but it also is the key to our greatest healing and how we can heal others. You have a Chiron in the 12th house conjunct Vesa. So that makes me believe that healing is something that your soul has deemed very sacred, not only in this lifetime as a form of power, but from previous lifetimes. Like, I would not be surprised if you were a healer. And since it's trining your moon, I feel like this is a past life gift that you have in relation to 12th house is a lot of subconscious energies. The fourth house is that emotional security and psychological foundation. So I do feel like there's a really big strength that you have with emotions and like cathartically working through that. And perhaps you helped people do that as well, like before. So
Yeah. Yeah, and even on that, like I think that there's like a like with the nodes in, you're the Cancer Capricorn node, so just trying to be more well, it's interesting because there's Neptune there, so it's like really trying to become like self-sufficient. I always say it's like you're trying to become your metaphoric own father, potential, but also there's Neptune, so it's like you're trying to become more spiritual in this lifetime as well, right? So it's a mix of the two. So it could be like two sides, where on one part of you it's like about kind of I don't know, kind of bossing up, and then the other side it's about also getting deeper with understanding your, like spirit and your place in the cosmos. But what I want to say about the Leo, well, first of all, Jupiter on your sun is one of the best things you can have. It's just like a blessing. Jupiter, and Haley can speak on that also. But like, it's just like everyone I know that has Jupiter conjunct Sun, even regardless of their sun sign, they have like kind of a Sagittarius, like very optimistic, big aura, big personality, but it's not necessarily in an egotistical way. I think it just gives a big kind of like it kind of gives like a swagger, and people are attracted to it. But what I was gonna say about the Chiron in Leo also, it's like a lot of times people who have Chiron and Leo, there's some pain around expressing the inner child. Like Leo at its best, and that's your sun sign, right? So it's like you're trying to just like, you're here to teach others how to just flow, and I guess teach yourself how to just flow and be in that kind of gregarious, like Leo, high Leo is just very like wants it's generous, it's passionate, it's all that. But the Chiron, the fact that's in the 12th could indicate potentially like a father that was, absent, or just not like a huge like impact on the life. Potentially, there's not really any hard aspects. It's actually really good aspects. So, and it's closely ascendant, so it could not be the case. But yeah, with the Chiron in Leo, I always see that as people who have to really learn to be a kid again. And yeah.
Right. I mean, with Chiron in Leo too, sometimes I've heard that it's it's learning to be a kid again, and sometimes this can come from having to be like portray the perfect child, or like being the golden child, or like there's some sort of narrative that you're feeling like you have to fit into versus really getting to like know your own self.
Mm.
um and then if I check to see like where your white moon Selena is, so our white moon Selena is our highest self. And so I find that often the white moon Selena in a birth chart, it's the counterpart to black moon Lilith, which is like our dark feminine energy. So I find a lot of times when we talk about light feminine energy, mature feminine, it's kind of, it helps with like a child core wound of what Chiron is. And your white moon Selena is in Virgo, and it's conjunct Aries. So really close to Aries. Or not Aries, it's conjunct Mars right here in Virgo. So it's at 21 degrees, it's in your first house. So there's a huge emphasis on your highest self coming out and you being able to feel inspiring to others, you being able to feel like you're your own protector, like your own guardian angel, like you have yourself in this way when you embrace self, because it's the first house. You have a first house stellium. So I do feel like there's a lot of new beginnings with feeling comfortable with yourself in terms of like mind, heart, going after what you want and feeling confident in that. Um, and yeah, with the Vesta, like Leo energy is what your soul deems sacred. So there's a huge emphasis on like just feeling like you can be your self. And then with Virgo, it's like being able to express that, because Virgos are very expressive. Um, it's an earth sign, so I feel like they have a groundedness about themselves, but it's also a communicative sign. So I think communication and self-expression is really key.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like um when you said with the Leo Chiron, um, I think like with all that Virgo energy, you always have to look out for perfectionism. You have Mercury and Venus retrograde, very rare to have both of them. Um, so that is, about something related to those two energies, right? Like a lot of times Venus retrograde. I'm gonna sec. I'll share this. I will look at something. But yeah, like having like planets right on your ascendant or right on your midheaven is just wild. And it makes those planets very, very strong. But in Virgo, I think like taking care of like the physical body is very, very important. But I just wonder if like if there was any perfectionism emphasized like in your home early on with Virgo Mars especially, but like just all those Virgo planets, it can make one very, very hard on themselves and their own kind of worst critic. Um, and like the thing with Mercury retrograde also is that it really turns the mind inward, and it can kind of make one go like it's way more right brained. Although it's in Virgo, so you have like this mix of like the logic and this very like abstract way of thinking. But sometimes like um on a karmic level, it's based on having like underused or overused the Mercury. So just like the potential for like over analyzing. And with Venus retrograde, I always think of that as like what can happen. We'll see how it aligns with the rest of the chart, but sometimes there can be past life energy where there was too much put on relationships, or just like with self-love there was something off around that. And like sometimes people with that can like look at their life and interpret it through the lens of how much am I, how much like romantic love do I have in my life, or how much do I not have, like being the basis for happiness. So a lot of times people with that, they have to learn to really be happy alone. So but also it's really, really good for for creativity and stuff like that. So and it could be really, really helpful with Venus retrograde to have have animals, even kids, like anything that kind of gets you in that energy of like, yeah, the Chiron, which, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I'm also noticing that you have it's interesting because you have Juno in retrograde, and that's the marriage asteroid. It's the soul contract asteroid. Then you have Venus in retrograde. So the same themes that Jesse was talking about, I do feel like there's gonna be past life people as like a theme, because retrogrades are often like second chances, like with those placements to kind of do the same narrative from the previous lifetime into this lifetime. It's almost like a sequel, like a part two. I tell people that a retrograde is like a non-retrograded placement is when you just go into the grocery store and you just shop and you get what you need. And then a retrograde is when you go back into the grocery store with like a shopping list. Like you kind of have like some things that the soul's wanting to work on. There's like familiar themes, like you're taking something that was an outward expression and now it's like forced to be internal. And it's really big review periods. But I also learned actually through one of the books that I was reading at Jesse's house that like first house placements are like new beginnings for the soul, um, in a way, and then the 12th house is like endings, right? And so we have like new beginnings with the heart space, with your mind, with like going after things, your sexuality, your sensuality. Um, a lot of your Mars is really, really well aspected. So I feel like you're just, because Mars is in the first, you're exerting the most amount of energy in this lifetime towards self, but then also that white moon, Selena, towards your highest self, like a really exalted version of yourself, which things in exaltation benefit being in that. So there's going to be a lot of benefits from going after your true self, but that's also seen with Par Fortune conjunct Moon. Um, and then yeah, North Node conjunct Juno is really big. North Node conjunct Vertex is also very big. Um,
Yeah, that's North Node Vertex. Wow. That's like a really important part of the chart. Um,
I'm curious your take on that, Jesse, like North Node conjunct vertex.
I mean, I think like, well, it's clearly you have like, you know, with vertex, with North Node, Vertex, and Juno all together, there's like a, like a soulmate, like a very important, like regardless of your take on twin flames or soulmates or whatever words are used, this would be a chart where I would say like 1,000%, like you, like whether it's one person or two people, like you have like a lot of very deep love karma. And it's in this big stellium here, so there's a lot of energy. But basically, I think like with the fifth house Capricorn, being able to, and yeah, I mean, just like being able to kind of figure out, it goes back to that Leo energy, right? So there's a lot of karma with Leo, fifth house Leo, being able to like let yourself go, being able, like, it's this interplay in your chart that I feel is between a part of you that's a lot more self-controlled, right? And then a part of you that's a lot more just free flowing and just, about, I mean, come on, Leo Sag is just, that's someone who's fun, who's just, going with life and fiery and passionate, all that stuff. But and then there's the Virgo energy, and then all this Capricorn, which is Earth, so it grounds you, so you're not like in the skies, like, you know going crazy, like people who have too much fire. Sometimes that can happen. Um, but yeah, with all of this, I think that just like even the sign Capricorn, right? Like, it could be during really important times that, like I don't like to say like you're gonna be married to a Capricorn, or you're gonna, like, I don't, not like that, but like someone with like a very strong Saturn. Um, it could be someone older, or just more mature, who has their shit together, but also is able to like, be like an adventurer, like someone who's not like just super like cold, but like someone who has their shit together, but also is able to like have fun and let loose. But yeah, just all that I just see as a lot of kind of romantic fate. And then with Neptune, I think that it's about like the difference between like not like when it comes to romance, like having like also having that mix of realism, because I think that would make you very like romantic. Um, that mix of realism and romance, and not falling too much into like over idealism, but also not falling too much into like, what would the opposite be, like being overly logical and stringent, I guess.
Yeah. I always say that one of probably the biggest superpower with Neptune and Capricorn individuals. So Neptune is Pisces in energy. A lot of people say it's exalted in Leo, so it likes to be in this like dreamy, artistic energy naturally. But then we have a huge amount of our generation that has Neptune and Capricorn. And the best part about this is Capricorn has both. It's earth and it's water. It's a sea goat. So Neptune really likes the fishy aspect of Capricorn, where Capricorn always has like new dreams, new ways in which they want to see results, in which they want to see rewards. And so you have the like one foot on solid ground where I think you're very practical. I mean, this is shown in other parts of your birth chart with like Leo and Virgo and Sag, like one part that's very practical. Um, and then one part of you that allows yourself to dream and like to reach towards that new thing. And since your North Node's on there, I just think that this generational planet is a big part of your destiny, of like unfamiliar territory, of what's really going to give you like soul fulfillment is going after and it could be anything. It doesn't have to be Capricorn work stuff. It's just, I mean, fifth house, that's also a sign of like learning how to be a kid again, and like
Yeah.
what does that mean like to you. And so a lot of times with like a south node and the 11th house, there's like this wanting to like be everything to everybody. like helping this person network and like hanging out with your friends and like having a big circle. So if you feel the need to like go more within, or just Jenna needs to be the main priority, like what does Jenna need to be happy, like having less friends, like if you're kind of put in positions where you're like, man, like I feel like I need to spend more time by myself, explore what I like, explore like what's going to make me happy. Like I think Neptune's a big part of that, like allowing yourself to still dream like you know how to do with South Node in the 11th, but it's going to be more so like a more in a spiritual journey, I guess, like what Jesse said, Neptune conjunct North Node.
Yeah, exactly. Like, cause fifth, like, yeah, like 11th house, yeah, 11th house South Node. It's like really just about, you creating your own destiny and having, I would say, like, I could see you having like one, different periods of your life that, like one's like one foot in the material world, one foot in the spiritual world, because North Node in Capricorn, it's very much about, Capricorn's a go-getter, business, working hard, all that stuff, and very, with the Virgo energy, you're very, very capable in that. But then with the fact that there's two of the three Virgos are, or of the four, the ascendant, are in retrograde, and then with Neptune on the the planet of dreams, of imagination, of intuition, on the North Node, the point about destiny, your high, your metaphoric highest mountain to climb in this lifetime, where you're trying to ascend to. It really, yeah, it really is this mix of practicality, boss, kind of boss energy, with allowing yourself to dream, self-discipline, and a creative life. And I think North South Node in Cancer sometimes can be like overly dependent on other people. And I think that, yeah, they're trying, like, so a lot of times when I see like Capricorn energy like that, like I can see people who, was it, yeah, like with their, like, a lot of times, like, yeah, there's something with a lot of times there's something with the father, which, with the 12th house sun, I don't know, like, they spend like a lot of their life searching for a father figure, but then the real lesson is like, oh shit, like I'm supposed to be my own metaphoric father figure. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Vertex talks a lot about the fated situations, places, and people that we are meant to meet. And the energy will tell you what types of people those are. So, for example, I have a Vertex in Leo. Like, I meet a lot of people that are really, really big personalities. Like, for example, a lot of them come in the form of lovers, and I think it's always happened since I was a child. So yours is in the sign of Capricorn. So that's probably going to be authority figures. So that could also have been since like you were a child, like people who just have authority, your own authority figures, people who are like meant to watch over you, people who are meant to guide you, people who are practical, people who like have success, people who have like results in life. And I think that that's a big hint as to like what you're meant to experience so that you can adopt some of that, because that's where your North Node is. So it could feel like unfamiliar, but it like, I don't know, I have a feeling that you've done this. Like your chart's so North Node oriented. Like a lot of people don't like necessarily fulfill their North Node. I find like some people feel really comfortable in the South Node thing, and you can tell like people who are very South Node oriented and like they kind of get stuck in these cycles and like these patterns that keep repeating. And just in your chart, like when it comes to your North and South nodes, like your Mars is really helping you out. You have a sextile to your South node with Mars, and then you have a trine to your North node with Mars. And again, that white moon Selena, I'm a big white moon Selena girly pop. Like the fact that that's right there, like your higher self is guiding you to like always kind of like take action if you feel like it. Like, and that's what I mean with like the new beginnings, and definitely with like Virgo Mars too. They can, their superpower is they can see like the details, how things can work out, like in some ways where people are intimidated to even go after something because they can lack that third modality. Like you have this ton of cardinal energy, and then you have this fixed energy, but then you have the mutable to kind of like carry it through. So, um, and yeah, I mean, with Jupiter conjunct your sun, that's already like a huge indication that you're always going to be expanding upon yourself. And yeah, I guess just with Mars, with helping you out, like it's a good energy to have, to be able to fulfill that North Node. So that's cool. I do feel like you've made more progress than a lot of people, just like with the way your chart's set up. Like this is a lifetime of expansion, but then I think it will continue to carry.
Yeah, definitely. And like I think because Mars and Virgo can be it depends on the chart. It can be horrible in certain charts. Like but in your chart it's good because it gives you that like Mars and Virgo, like I did a poll on Instagram. I guess like, what's your what placement would you change? And like there's a bunch of Mars and Virgo, Mars and Cancer, Mars and Virgo. Um, and it's not that there's such thing as a bad placement. It's just that like Mars and Virgo sometimes can be very, very nitpicky. However, if you have it in a chart like yours where you're, Leo Sun, Sag Moon, it really helps. Like I always say, like if I'm gonna have like an accountant or something like that, if I'm gonna have like someone that's doing business for me, that relies on details, right? Like it's super observant. But the thing that they have to get past is that potential to like look at themselves because they see everything, right? So it's um like Mars Virgo sees everything. So what can happen is if they're overly critical of themselves, then they can project that onto partners, onto friends, and it can just be so it really is about that kind of 0 or 100 thinking and just having self-compassion for yourself and being able to accept like, okay, the best I did today was you know whatever score you give yourself, and not needing, because a lot of times Virgo can like have like crazy like expectations for itself and other people, and then when they inevitably don't meet that um all the time, right, then they can kind of go for that 0. So it's like about being okay with like the 7 or the 8 out of 10, the 6 out of 10 days, and just kind of going with the flow.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I mean, really, your Mars is a huge superpower. I mean, it's out of Sagittarius degree too, so we're seeing like more of that fire. A lot of your stuff are at fire degrees. Your Sun is at an Aries degree. Your Mercury, your Venus, and your Ascendant are all at an Aries degree. Your Mars is at an Aries degree. So there's a lot of little innuendos that you have like a lot of fire within you in other places, but um I like some of the like just fun stuff about some of your first house placements, like Mars and Virgo. I always find like they like to help people. Like naturally, they're kind of like that person that's like, oh, here, sure, like you can help, like why wouldn't you? Sort of beat, but they're also like real givers, like in bed too. That's just like something that's like a Mars and Virgo thing. I feel like is a superpower. They're very intuitive too in bed. They can pay attention to details. And then with your Mercury conjunct Venus, I mean, first off, like it's just when you speak from the heart, I think you always know what to say. I feel like with this in Virgo, like you have a way with words, I feel like, especially when you express from the heart. Um, you could also have like a very pretty voice with Venus on your Mercury, or just have like really a nice way that you articulate yourself. And then with your ascendant at like right on your Mercury and your Venus, like your chart rulers are not only Mercury, but it's also Venus. So I feel like your heart space leads a lot of your chart, but so does Mercury. And I like that because it's like the mind and the heart.
Yeah, definitely. And just like, yeah, having them so close to the ascendants, like, or on the ascendant, just being able to speak your mind, being able to, you know, like, and I see a parallel because you have your moon trying Chiron. So, that creates the gifted healer, the person who knows how to understand other people's plights and really feel that compassion and know kind of how to listen and what to say at the right time. And then having Mercury and Venus, it gives someone, yeah, like a nice calming, I guess, like soothing voice and just manner of self-expression, and just very like good listener. Very, it's a nice balance, right? Because sometimes Leo and Sag can be over the top, right? Like I think the Virgo in your chart is really beneficial. Oftentimes I it's not for people, but and I love Virgo, but like I'm saying, like for you it's really good because um let's say you just had the Sag and Leo, you might it grounds you a little bit. It brings you a little bit like closer to ground, to where you can still be very expansive, you can still be very passionate and all that, but you're able to really see all the little things. You're able to notice everything. You're able to notice your own behavior. So of course, like I was saying before, there is a balance that's needed with that. Um, but I think the fact that your sun, your moon are trine, or in trine uh signs, right? They're in very in friendly signs. They're both in fire. I think that creates a nice balance. And yeah, just having Mercury, and I don't know, it just like makes communication play like a big role in your life. Definitely like a very curious person. It's good for intelligence. And I think that even like, just like the more I think you could definitely be some type of healer for sure. But I think also like with a North Node in Capricorn, I think that there's it's like, even if you're doing something, for example, like you're working like in business or I don't even know what, you're still able to have these qualities that can heal people, or even just in your own family. Because Venus rising people, like, they tend to be very attractive. And if it's not like, and when I say attractive, because everything is energy, I'm speaking in the sense of like, it gives a very warm personality, and it's Virgo, so people feel. So I feel like that would help a bunch, like in any kind of anything, and especially business, because people feel like they can rely on you and that they can trust you, and it's like a very nice aura, right? So like there's a level of charm mixed with, you know, it's not just fluff. It's like charm mixed with like, like actually actual legitimacy. I can do this energy.
Right. Like the practicality, I think is great. Like Earth Risings, the first impression is definitely like reliability, like practicality. Um, Anytime people have any sort of air sign or Virgo rising, there's this ease with communication. It helps, especially with people who aren't good at communication. I think like you could lead a lot of those conversations. And yeah, there was something else I wanted to. Oh, okay. So your Pallas Athena. So your Pallas Athena is in the second house, which Pallas Athena is strategy. She is the second major asteroid, kind of tapped into Juno, which is the third major asteroid. We tapped into Vesta, which is the fourth. There's four main ones um, in astrology. And Pallas Athena is where we have natural intuitive abilities. It's strategic. She's the strategic side of war, so the feminine side of war. So not so much brute and force, but the owl, the like chief that can make strategic moves to get what we want. And this is in your second house of money, in your second house of finances. But it's also in Libra. So that also makes you strategically really good with people. It's also making a sextile to your Sag moon. So super likable. Like Libra and Sag energy is some of my favorite. Um, and there's a lot of wisdom that I feel like you have around like your own self-worth, like your own uh like what you value. And I think that that translates. A lot of people in business, when they have like second house placements, um, I think there's a huge correlation between self-worth. and then like how successful we are in knowing our worth and like what we deserve in terms of money and life and values and things of that nature. So
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Um, I want to like touch back on like this Antares on your moon because so one thing, you are sun, double fire, sun and moon. Your masculine and your feminine are in line with each other, right? They're head the same direction. A lot of people like myself have like a square, right? Like between like basically like my feminine and my masculine are clashing, right? So I have two parts. For you, it's like, both going the same direction. Usually that means that like the parents uh, I've kind of distanced myself from saying like they have a good relationship, but like usually it means that the message you got from parent A and from parent B are quite similar. Like they're not clashing. They're not like really like it's usually a lot of the times in my experience it speaks to like a good relationship between them, but I've also seen times where it doesn't. But usually it's just good for the psyche. Um, but with Moon and Antares, there's definitely because Antares is like this very like it's just a very intense energy. It's like kind of the warlord. Like like so with the moon, it can definitely it can create emotional outbursts. And just I don't know, different like dramas, I guess. It can be a little bit, it is it also is very good for being very intelligent, but broad-minded, philosophical, all that. Um, it's good for business, for having like friends with influence and um all that kind of stuff for power, wealth. But it's with any of the royal stars, there's just this big need to recognize that power and to not overuse it. And there'll be fated situations in life that come up where it's almost like you're not supposed like it's kind of like you're presented with an opportunity where you can get revenge, and it's very important not to seek revenge, to let God do what God does. So yeah, I just want to add that in there. And also you have Algol on your midheaven. So I have that too. And it's actually very interesting. Algol gets a bad rep, but it's pretty magical. Um, it kind of creates so like to your midheaven, your grand public persona, um, your career, all that, right? So it creates like this very mystique, this great mystique, like where um there's kind of this like appeal to the person, kind of hard to pin down. And yeah, I think it's also very linked to to kind of like transformation, but the bad rep that it gets, like there's lots of artists have algol, um but like it gets like the bad rep of being like the Medusa, like Frank, kind of Frankenstein, like monsters and all that. But really, I see it as as something that can be flipped, in the like it can be very difficult, but can also be very positive, um and create kind of lots of you know uh glory in life and all that. But it's just like I feel like you will be tested in a sense, um probably early on in life especially. And it's just really important to kind of keep your cool. And being a double fire, sun and moon, I think the importance of you having a physical outlet, right? Whether it's like running or whatever, just something that gets the sweat, moving, it gets the energy moving, especially with the Virgo. So this is another reason why I think the Virgo is so good for you, is because Virgo placements like this, like they are health conscious. They love also pets. You love pets. Um, I would guess. And yeah, like it's on the first house. So I like that's another thing I would also like to add, is that making sure that there's not a over perfectionism with your appearance, I don't know. What do you think about that? Because I think like Virgo first house could potentially, with those retrogrades, especially create um almost like an obsession of being perfect, like in terms of like how they come off and look and all that stuff, which is not bad, but balance.
Yeah, I mean with the rising, I mean your rising is on Regulus, so I feel like they say that Regulus individuals have this sort of like glamour or this like sparkly aura, this very like wowza, like especially if it's on your rising. So I feel like you just have that quality about you that especially with like the hidden sun, it kind of like comes out in ways that I feel like is more subconscious, like to people. So I feel like you are very magnetic. And with Mars in the first, yeah, Mars in the first, individuals usually have like sharp features. Um, and with Mercury in the first two, that's like really detailed features. And then with Venus, oh, it's beautiful. Like Venus and the first individuals have this like easy on the eyes complexion to them, and kind of this like fullness as well because it's Venus, it's Aphrodite. So yeah, I think with your like appearance too, if there are like perfectionist tendencies, which definitely can come from like any Virgo placement, like being a Virgo Venus too, and just like there's there could be like, oh, I want like myself to be put together. Like if you're not, like I think just like avoiding any of that shadow of Virgo where it can kind of lead into like self-deprecation or like, kind of being really nitpicky with one's own self. Like Leo does a good job of that too most of the time. But with like self-acceptance and things like that. But yeah, I think with Jupiter on your sun too, like you're always going to be not only expanding your identity, but um I think there's with Mars in the first, like if you ever want to like change up your look too, like and allowing that to kind of like flow with the perfectionist of like, okay, I think it's time for a change. Like I'm not really happy or like anything like that. I think that would be like a good thing as well. I can definitely say as somebody with like first house placements that like that really helps. Like if I just like change it up, especially when you have like a moving planet there. But yeah, if you do have any perfectionist tendencies, that could help for sure.
Yeah, depth. And also, I just recognize or realized that you have what I have, Pluto on the IC. Now it's not smack, but it's close enough. This is a really difficult placement. One of the more difficult. I mean, it's not making any. Okay, you're lucky you don't have it as bad as me. I have square Venus in the nodes, but a lot of times that does create a very traumatic childhood. Now, like I said, it is 8 degrees. Well, yeah, like 8 degrees, so it's kind of right on kind of, but yeah, I mean, regardless, it's in the third. So there can be lots of themes here. There could be themes around well, there's a lot I can go into, but like a lot of times Pluto third house, like in whole sign in Placidus third house, there could be like power struggles with siblings. This is where I have my Pluto also, and I definitely have that. Um, but on the IC rules our childhood, it rules our inner unconscious, and a lot of times people with Pluto on the IC have childhood trauma, right? Um, and so obviously, like I had this, so I know a ton about this placement, and one of like one of the ways, so because it opposes your midheaven, it's actually one of those things where it's like you have to kind of go deep into whatever your pain is, whatever a lot of times it's very deeply buried unconscious stuff that's sometimes hard to kind of get access to, but by being able to go there and really do that inner shadow work, it has a complete impact on your midheaven, your dharma, your career, your success. So there is that correlation between the inner work, but the fact that's in your chart, um, it just shows karmically that it's something that you signed up for. And a lot of healers or people who are meant to make a difference in the world will have difficult aspects like that. Because what it does is that it gives you a head start. Yeah, you experience the uglier side of humanity early on, but and this is something a realization I had recently was that like Pluto on the IC, it's like nothing can break you down. Like once you've gone through, you go through so much, and it, this will be an interesting case study because 8 degrees usually I see it closer, but basically not like it's almost like this dense. I always think of it like this dense ball of energy that can either be your worst enemy, this thing that always brings you down. Also, Pluto on the IC, it would be it's better for people from astrocartography purpose to live further away from where they were born because you'd be on your Pluto IC line, and I know all about that. Every time I go back to San Francisco, it's just like fuck this. But yeah, it really does. I think it can be this just like this extra energy that you have, this extra ability to overcome adversity. But a lot of times early in life, it's fucking hard.
I mean, Jesse knows a lot about this placement. I know a lot about Pluto and kind of like the nature of Pluto. I mean, you have Pluto in a really, really good position. It's in Scorpio, so that helps. They're from the Pluto in Scorpio generation where they're very familiar and very accepting of the fact that the world is not sunshine and rainbows. There is not like a yearning to like put on the rose-colored glasses, which I really appreciate with this placement. And it just there's innate power even with like the harder things that you sign up for with being a Pluto individual, like whether that's on your IC or like I don't know, like on your sun, your moon. One thing I also noticed, so I noticed that Mars was in good harmony with your karmic axis. um, Pluto is also in good standing with your karmic axis. So that can help to kind of reassure you that in terms of the way that you can take action, like that Virgo analytical, strategic way that you take action, you also have one of the other most analytical signs. And when I say analytical, I mean Virgo and Scorpio placements are like supercomputers. Like there is this natural ability to assess one's weaknesses, one's strong points, to be able to read people. There's really good discernment that comes with Scorpio and Virgo placements. So this is a power in a lot of ways. Like you came into this karma that you signed up for, essentially, like what Jesse was saying about like learning about the darker side of humanity early on. But you naturally, from the past life, brought this huge amount of power that you can draw from your Mars. You also brought in this huge amount of power with, I believe, your Pluto. Let me see. Is also sextiling Neptune. So Pluto sextile Neptune's also like being able to feel through subconscious energies, being able to see through illusions, which sometimes Neptune can be tricky with that. Um, and and yeah, you also have the karma asteroid so close to your south node. Like the karma asteroid on your south node is there's a lot of like faded energy that I think this is in your chart. I feel like some people, their charts, you can kind of tell like if it's just kind of like a chill like lifetime. They're kind of just like there to have fun. Like I think that yours is like a good mix. I think with like your fifth house, it's like your north node, like your life I feel like is essentially unfolding backwards where I feel like you're going to have to feel like the pressure of like having to grow up very quickly, having to be exposed to like darker side of humanity and things like that, so that you can feel younger as you get older. um, and through that you still are gaining like a lot of success. You are still like seeing all that you're capable of, all these first house placements. um, and in result it becomes like a spiritual journey with like north node on Neptune. And Pluto's also where you become the most powerful. So in terms of like Pluto in the third house individuals are so smart. Like I swear these people know so much about so many things. They're really good at like thinking logically what they would do in a situation. They're like sponges for information. They yeah, it's really cool. There's a good mix of your mind being associated with your heart space, but there's also just like your mind, like measurable intelligence. I feel like if somebody were to ask, like, is Jenna smart? They're like, yeah, Jenna's really smart. She's always been smart, you know, like that. That's like a Pluto in the third thing because the ninth house is kind of that like higher education, philosophy, things like that. And then the third house very much is like learning, elementary. Like usually Pluto in third house, like individuals do well in school. Probably maybe despite like a lot of stuff at home, like um, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I mean, Mercury rising in Virgo, it's kind of interesting too, because like with the smart thing, it's like you're definitely very smart, but sometimes, like I'm this is something I'm interested in because a lot of times Mercury retrograde people, they because they learn in a different way, and the school system in America is very Capricornian, very logical. But like I said, it is in Virgo, so you have your Mercury in the best sign, Gemini and Virgo, right, in the dignity position, but it's retrograde. So sometimes Mercury retrograde people can have difficulty like in that system. But I feel like because it's in Virgo and because Pluto in the third house, you know, I think that when you're interested in something, like you can just go full on. But yeah, I think also with the Mars and Virgo, I think that would definitely help you a lot, even if you're not interested. Like if it's something you just have to get done for sure. But yeah, Pluto third house on a karmic level, you're trying to in past lives, there's been how do I say this? Like there's I said the sibling thing already. If you have siblings, but there's basically like this need to go out into the world and get the information for yourself, right? And this goes back to your Sag moon because there can be a tendency to just have like past lives where you allowed kind of this is the way things are. I'm not going to be flexible with it, with my understanding of it, blah blah blah. And that had consequences, right? So it's like the idea of having all those mini, I call them like data points, right? Like data conversations, like going out, meeting this person, like, okay, I don't like because like the world right now, I think I don't know what percentage of people, but such a high percentage of people think in black and white, right? They think, oh, this person's good or they're bad. They can't realize that there's, like it's just way more complex than that. Um, so like an example of like third house Pluto being good is like, okay, let's say what's a good topic? Um, let's say whatever topic, if it's politics or something going on in the world, right? Really going and just like finding different angles. Like, okay, I'm seeing it from this person's viewpoint, now from this person's viewpoint, and not forming an opinion until you've really like not and also not attaching your ego too much to your opinions. Um, sometimes with Sun and Mercury conjunction, which you do have a good Sun Mercury conjunction, by the way, because it's outside the combust zone, so that's actually good for it's good for intelligence. Another good point for intelligence. But yeah, just making sure that because a third house Pluto person is a very powerful speaker. They're someone who can, um, through their communication, when they get into something, like let's say I always use the example of astrology, but let's say you get really into astrology, right? You're like, oh, I want to study this. Like, you'd have the ability to just go fucking crazy, like just crazy, 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 like intense obsession about learning what you're interested in. And I think you also have that I think you also have the ability, you have both, right? And the last thing I want to say about that kind of genre is like with your fifth house and Cap, I always say fifth house Capricorn people, the best thing possible is making what you do for fun your moneymaker. That's like the most amazing thing, especially with the Uranus and Neptune in there. You're going to be very like, you'll probably have unusual hobbies. Um, you know, you'll really, it's really important for you to to be in that individualistic, like I'm doing me, I'm not following the crowd type energy. So yeah.
I love that too, because I feel like that's your Pluto in the third. Just like if you feel like you're empowered through knowledge, through like writing, through because it could not just be like measurable intelligence. Like the third house is the written word and the spoken word. To have Pluto there means you're powerful there. The Leo degree on Pluto, very passionate. I feel like once you're passionate about something, it's just wanting to learn everything about it. And uh I mean, Pluto in Scorpio generation too, I think it's hard for them to like put a lot of passion or yeah, to put a lot of passion towards something that they're or how do I say it? Like unless they're passionate about what they're doing, it can be hard for them to want to exert a lot of their power and energy into it. Um Sarah's in the third. I'll just wrap up on like the fourth major asteroid. Like Ceres is kind of our second moon sign. Your Ceres is in Scorpio with a Cancer degree. So I think that the best way that you feel nurtured and the best way that you also know how to nurture others is when people are real with you, when people are authentic with you, when people can get like intimate with you, like kind of like cut the bullshit and just really be able to level with you, like see where you're coming from. I think you want to see people's like authentic side, like their deeper side. This could be like helping people go through like some of the toughest times of their life and like in vice versa you. This could be also like having deep conversations about the truth, what you think the truth is, what you think like what you've learned from your experiences. Also like empowering people and like empowering yourself, getting deeper with yourself. And then with the square to Chiron, like this in turn helps heal you, like heal your heart space, heal your inner child. And then also like with the written and spoken word, music could be like a huge form of nurturing for you. Reading, poetry, writing. So if you're interested in any of those or like anything came to mind with like that list of like some Sarah's things that could bring you nurturing, like you could always rely on that to feel more nurtured within the self. And I'm sure with like South Node Cancer, you probably like can feel more nurtured if you like kind of go back to like maybe rewatching like your childhood movies or just like going to nostalgic places or like you probably have a good idea of how to nurture yourself. But with the squares to Chiron and the squares to Saturn, I think it could definitely help with like any healing. And then it can also help you actually get more discipline. Like the more that you nurture yourself, the more that you can achieve.
Definitely. Um, what do we think about the moon with part of fortune? I mean, I feel like it kind of creates like the part of fortune, it's not a planet, it's a point, but so it's done through like an equation of like sun plus moon minus the center or something like that. Basically it lands on like a random part of the chart, right? And it's on your moon. So it represents like a very, like kind of your flow state, like a very beneficial position, right? Where, where there's just like where you can kind of kill it, I guess. And the fact that it's on your moon, I don't know. I feel like it definitely can bring out a lot of like the positive energy of Sagittarius. Like when you're like in the high vibe of Sag, when you're traveling also the Sag moon, there's an emotional need, especially when you're stressed or when you feel like you're kind of like held back or like to have change and to have freedom, right? Like for Sag moon, if we don't have freedom in our lives, if we don't have this sense of adventure, this sense of like anything is possible, like this sense of growth, like stagnancy is uh, like the biggest. I mean, for like pretty much every Sag moon I know, it's like they need freedom. They need that. It's like a fire moon, right? But there's like a Jupiterian like expansive quality to it. So it's like they want to go and learn new things. They want to find new teachers. They want to read new books. They want to learn about new cultures. A lot of Sag moons, like myself included, like I'll just like look at like when I was a kid, I like knew like every country, every capital in the world. Like I would just like look like spend hours just like looking at the map, you know, like that's a very I've met other Sag moons that like were obsessed with just like going on Google Maps and just like looking at stuff. But yeah, I feel like it's really, really yeah, like you're when you're in the highest energy of that, when you're not in the kind of like overly blunt, like the low vibe of Sag, right? Because everything in astrology, there's the high vibe and the low vibe. Your free will is choosing how you express that. You can have someone else born at the exact same time, all the same birth info as you, a twin or someone, you know, just born in the same hospital, same time, whatever, and they'll have a completely different life because of free will and because of, you know, the karma being different, all that. But I don't know. What do you think about that moon part of fortune conjunction?
Yeah, I mean, I always say Power of Fortune is that hot spot energy. Because if you think about Vertex, Vertex is kind of the same thing. It's like based off the sun, moon, rising, and you get this random energetic point. But I find that Vertex brings us other people, and Power of Fortune's like the opposite of that. Power of Fortune's like, okay, what part of myself is gonna bring most prosperity? And prosperity is not just money. I literally say Power of Fortune is the more that I embody my Power of Fortune, the more that the universe just fucks with me, like in a good
Yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah. No, very true.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't know. I think your moon conjunct Power of Fortune is emulated in other parts of your chart, like your sun conjunct Jupiter. Expansion gives you vitality. Ninth house in Aries, in Placidus, in Taurus, in whole sign. Like expansion gives you individuality, expansion gives you comfort. Like ton of first house placements about expansion. Um, so just I say always be expanding in whatever way that you want, that you're gravitated towards. um Learning new things, of course. Another thing about Sag too is like, yeah, feeling free, feeling liberated. It's not all about just in the books. Like Sag likes to experience life, likes to
Mhm.
experience things. um for better or for worse, Sag can find a way to like fill us. um I don't even know what's the word. Like philosophy. Uh,
Philosophy,
yeah,
like yeah, create meaning.
yes, exactly what Jesse just said. So I feel like that's good. With the fourth house, like I think too, like you could receive a lot of like prosperity in the form of like eventually like finding your dream home, or eventually feeling really home within yourself, who what feels like home. Like that could come from expansion too. Like the more that you expand and you try out new things and you just kind of flow with life, I think the more good things end up in your life regarding family, home,
Mm.
who what feels like home, your own psychological foundation, inner security.
Yeah, definitely. And I was just thinking of some parallels. So the Pluto on the IC, right? So it's like I think that like there's a bit like with the part of fortune and moon, it's like there's this connection between your highest emotional well-being and your life purpose, right? So basically like by you by you overcoming the Pluto on the IC kind of darkness, that opens up like on an energetic level that creates a lot of lightness for you, right? And then when you have that lightness, this all opens up. So I think also with like, you know, the like the you know, the fourth house, it's like creating that emotional spiritual relationship with yourself. And yeah, like a fourth house moon, yes. So you have, you know, like it's you have a kind of similar thing as me, right? I'm like our risings are only 3 apart and our moons are the same. Um, so in Placidus, I have a fourth house moon. But basically the point is like, so I know all about it because I have it. And it's like the energy in Haley's a Cancer Sag, so it's like, you know, she's embodiment of it. It's like having it's like still needing that home, even if you're away from home, like need you like it's like this need, like okay, I'll give you an example. Like I don't live where I grew up, but I have a home here. You know, so I'm that's the fourth house grounded, but then I'm in a foreign country. So Sag is like that adventure, but like even in your adventures, you still need to feel like grounded within yourself, whether it's in a partner, which I wanted to bring that into the equation too. We could maybe give her like kind of like a love breakdown. But yeah, like I just think it's really important to make sure that you're always checking in with yourself and meeting your emotional needs.
Yeah. No, I like that. I mean, Jesse's a perfect example of that. Like fourth house Sag moon, it's a it's a duality for sure. So
Yeah, and you are
yeah,
too. I mean, it's your sun and your moon. So it's like, you like to be comfortable, you like to be at home, but then, you like to explore also.
this is facts. So you're talking to two other, I mean, you're very Jupiterian, but with the South Node in Cancer too, it's just a big hint that
Yeah.
uh, there's a duality to your chart. And I find some people are very duality like oriented in their charts, you know? There's duality all over the chart, or north and south nodes. You have oppositions in your chart. But yeah, the fact that you're so I mean, Venus conjunct Mercury, like at that small of an orb is within itself like huge duality, but you bring it together, you anchor it well, and that's your whole chart ruler. I think your whole chart ruler is like duality. So yeah, it's like a very Virgo Leo thing, the mind and the heart, and then with the Cancer and the Sagittarius, it's like wanting to feel secure and at home, and wanting like more out of life, you know.
Yeah, definitely. And I think also like on a karmic level, you're here to there's just been too many past lives where you've gone with this, like not like necessarily with the status quo, but like where like you've identified too much as like the mother, or as like the like in the like you've had like I wouldn't be surprised if, well, I could see I'm not gonna make a guess on this, but a lot of times with that south node in Cancer, there's really like a lot of like past life um times where like let's say like you're a mother, right, and you identify as the mother or the grandma or whatever, right, but then you're also an amazing artist, but because you're so, I don't want to use the word caught up, what's a better word, you're so invested in that purpose of being the mother, you don't get to explore your creative side, your individualistic side. So I think the reason that your sun sign is Leo in this lifetime and that your moon sign is Sagittarius is because your soul wants to experience movement and wants to experience life. But then the also massive, massive thing that, is the fact that your Sun Jupiter conjunction is in the 12th house. And that on its own is very interesting because it's close to the ascendant, but it's like, it's still, it basically makes it just your life, it just the word karma is what comes up. And um also a lot of times 12th house moon people, they're like very behind the scenes type people. um but the fact that you have Jupiter in the 12th is like, it's like probably maybe the best placement I can think of for like spiritual like protection. So like you're protected, right? I have this too. I mean, I wasn't thinking about it when I said that, but like, well, actually, it's 11th or 12th, depending on the system. But you have it in either system, Placidus and whole sign, because you have a 1 degree rising. So you are very protected, and that enables you to take, because you are Jupiterian. They say that the Jupiterian gets paid off when they take risks, like healthy risks, not like, going to the casino and gambling and all your money, like good risks, right? Like you get repaid. But yeah, the 12th house sun, I think that the idea of self-sacrifice, the idea of you know being there for other people. Like sometimes 12th house sun people have difficulty um with the kind of normal everyday day-to-day life. Like they want like a more spiritual outlook, a more spiritual, like something where they're giving back. And of course a lot of times it does go back to like a lot of times having like, missing out on having like the closest relationship with the father. It doesn't necessarily mean, like I said, there's no bad aspects, there's only good aspects to the sun. but a lot of times that 12th house sun does indicate that. I've seen times where it indicates like a father that passed early, where there's a good relationship, but he passed early. It can be a bunch of different things, right? Um, but the thing about 12th house sun, especially so close to the ascendant, is that it just makes it depend so much on how your nurturing was from your your mom, your parents. Like your early nurturing is so important. With Pluto on the IC, that indicates that there's probably some volcanic energy. Um, but what can happen is that the person can kind of repress a part of their identity, and go in these like cycles. And the best way to unlock that is to be of service and to be selfless in your life.
Yes. I mean, I have 12th house energy too. I have my moon in the 12th house. I have Pluto in the 12th house, like really, really close together. And I find that I find that you get there like in cycles. I don't know if that's like a Pluto thing. I think with Jupiter on your sun, I think that there could always be like growth around here. But if you feel like you don't really resonate with like a version of yourself that like you were, and you keep having these like metaphorical endings around old identities and coming into better ways of like being present with oneself, with growing, like 12th house can really like indicate like going into fantasy world or wanting to escape in certain ways. So the fact that we have Jupiter here, I think that helps with protection in that too. um, there's more of a want to learn from it and a want to like lean into the parts of the non-physical of all of it for sure. But yeah, I do think that with your moon aspecting something really well in the 12th house, that the emotional foundation that you have, it's good in this way. and and yeah, like yeah, just 12th house is the house of selfless service to humanity. So I find that 12th house, Jupiter's sons, like you could kind of see other people really easily in groups, in like when you go to parties or just like in a group of people, you could see like who isn't fitting in or who doesn't feel comfortable. And that's the subconscious energies that you pick up on. People with 4th house placements, 12th house placements, 8th house placements, big Pluto, big Neptune, all the subconscious energies manifest as something that is hard to explain in the birth chart. But to me, it's like you are very in tune with everything that is not being shown, like which is energy, like subconscious energies. So that is a way that you can help people if you feel inclined to, bring somebody in and kind of be like, hey, my name is this, and kind of make them feel seen. That's because you actually could relate to not fully feeling seen by other people in a way that you would have wanted to. So definitely, I think with your moon trine Chiron, you have Chiron here. I also typed in the unconditional love asteroid, which is agape. It's in your second house of value. So I feel like you value unconditional love. That doesn't surprise me with Venus on your AC. And then you also have um, the North Node on Neptune, which Neptune is unconditional love. It's like the higher octave of Venus. So Venus is measurable love, love languages. We get Neptune, and now we have something that's more 5D, that's not that common on Earth, which can be linked to delusion. But with people who have done the work and have a high, like, spiritual involvement with their own growth, with leaning to that high vibe of placements, like Jesse said, this leads to being able to use unconditional love as a form of like healing for yourself, as a form of self acceptance, of a form of being able to help other people who feel hidden. Maybe it comes from you feeling hidden. A lot of the Pluto conjunct IC stuff. And I find that Sag Moon people too, it's like they're meant to like be grid workers, or they're meant to like meet a lot of people. They're meant to explore a lot of things, to teach, to kind of like experience, because they have something to share too. I think it's not all just like I want to experience. It's like I want to watch other people experience the experience. And with 12 housers, I think they're really good at being able to do that with other people.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, like tap into the zeitgeist and understand. And yeah, it could even be like teaching other people how to be independent, like teaching other people how to be how to kind of like in a practical but also spiritual way. Um, but like I definitely think like there's so many things in your chart, like your Saturn sixth house, like just I mean that is like such a good. I don't know. I think I mean yeah. Okay, the thing with Saturn sixth house, it's like it makes one very responsible, very good organized worker, which you already have with the Virgo. So I would not be surprised at all if you were very successful. Um, Now we also have to know that there's a strong link here, like psychosomatic link, and it's important to not overwork yourself. Um, like there's this very structured kind of daily routine and work. Sometimes Saturn success people have health issues early in life. But yeah, it's just important to kind of have that solid, and that's another thing about Cancer Capricorn, your South Node and North Node. So it's about finding the balance between the feminine and the masculine. Um, and it's about finding the work life balance. And that goes back to your Virgo versus your fire. The balance between your that duality between the the things that really light your fire and the things that make you feel like you're really giving back. And like you're really doing being successful in whatever that means. But Haley, she has Eros on her moon, and Fortuna. These are some of your babies. Is 2 degrees Virgo, so it's like right on her all of that like ascendant, Mercury and Venus, closest to Venus. Interesting.
Yes. So, I mean, Eros, I love Eros is Aphrodite's son. So, Aphrodite is uh, our sexual attractiveness. Aphrodite is love. She's the Greek equivalent of Venus. So, you have Venus on your rising, which makes you kind of like an Aphrodite rising, which I can relate to. And then you have Eros, which is the baby of Aphrodite. And Eros is passion. Eros is the Roman equivalent of Cupido, like Cupid. Eros was known as like Cupid's arrow. He strikes people and he makes them super passionate. He makes them see love and beauty. It's a really Taurus placement, very Leo placement. Eros is passion, whether that's creativity, whether that's cultivated with other people, whether that's just for life. So I love that you have it on your Sag moon. And the fact that your Sag moon is at an 8th degree, you have this little vibe of Scorpio. It gives a lot more depth. I love like a good mix of Scorpio and Sag. I feel like it makes for extremely smart, wise, brilliant, passionate, full of life, like um, people who like to experience and see the truth of things. So I feel like any experience that brings you is amazing. I also feel like this could be a passion for like home life, like a passion for like I don't know, you could like cozy spaces. You could like giving other people or seeing other people comfortable, like having a secure home. Like you could be very passionate about um just you're passionate about what you're passionate about. I know that may sound dumb, but it's the arrows conjunct moon and Sag, moon and Sag thing, and it also like there's a lot of things with sensuality in your chart. You have Black Moon Lilith next to your Uranus, so as far as what your genius really lies in a lot of your like raw sexuality. That's also a huge thing with Chiron and Leo, is just being able to express and own one's own self, like fully and completely. I, in this moment, accept myself, like Venus on the rising to like in Virgo, self expression, like Eros with your moon. I think you definitely thrive off self-expression. That's also Pluto in the 3rd house. Like as you get older and as you transform, your power to self-express, it nurtures you, it heals you. 12th house individuals are very, very talented. Justin Bieber has a large 12th house placement. People who have a lot of talent, and that could be past life talent with Jupiter and Leo in 12th.
Yeah, that's a
You
past
know,
life gift, a karmic gift to have Sun Jupiter for sure.
yeah. So lots of talent, lots of like sensual, sexual power with the Eros and the and the Venus and Black Moon Lilith.
Definitely. Let's talk about love, why don't we?
Don't we?
Yeah, I'll give my little take, and then we can we can see. So
Okay.
I think, like, I'm well aware you could be married, you could be not. Regardless, like, I think it's really good to just kind of, because some I feel like people have sometimes a misconception that's like, oh, I need to be with this sign or that sign, but it's never really like that. I mean, it's more like understanding like what works, what would be best for you, like what kind of your needs are in that department. So obviously, you're a Sag moon. So when it comes to romance, a Sag moon needs to feel like they like, because they're such an adventure spirit and they're so philosophical. I think it'd be hard for a Sag moon to be kind of trapped in like a very traditional. I mean, it's not that they can't do that, because you do have your Venus in Virgo, but oh, and actually one thing before that I forgot to say, it just came back to me. You have two fixed stars. Um, one of them is called the Nebula. It's like really, really about like two. They're actually linked to like astrology and like esoteric stuff. You have the Nebula on your Mars, so like that's kind of like this. It's really like truth-seeking energy. So you have that, and then you have Hydra pretty close to your Sun, 2 degrees. So it's not like so close, but like it's close enough. And that's like a really, really big one in ancient astrology, like about astrology. So like I'm an astrologer and I have like my sun exactly on Hydra, right? So yours is really close. So yeah, I mean that's just something I want to add in there before. But yeah, so like a Sag moon in love, like they need to feel like everything is possible, or like like they can expand, like they need freedom, they need fun, they need an adventure partner. um Now then, when we mix that with the fact that you have your Juno right in Capricorn, that is a lot different, right? Would you agree, Haley? Like I feel like a lot of people with Juno and Capricorn, like they want someone that's like mature, and it can be someone maybe older, or at least that has like a higher, like that's successful, that they can respect. Like what would you say about like kind of like the love of that?
Yeah, so I love Juno. I'm a big Juno fan. Uh, so Juno represents in the birth chart what works for us in long-term relationship, like what works for us enough to commit.
Hmm.
Like if we see that energy, we can show up committed, like we want to commit. It's not wishy-washy energy when we experience this energy.
And isn't it
um
over time? Isn't it over time? Like I feel like Venus is like dating, but like Juno, it's like, right? It's like kind of like being able to like actually like live and be with a person. Would you? Is that good? Correct in your
yeah,
eyes?
yeah, I would say like a long-term relationship, like I would say, so like even if you have so it's on your north node, that would really indicate to me that this would come later in life,
Oh,
like right there.
oh yeah, or like past Saturn return. Yeah, like because you just passed your Saturn return recently, so maybe,
Yeah, it is.
yeah, maybe
Yes,
it's like very, very, definitely very faded. As I said earlier, very, very faded energy in love for sure.
super faded energy. I mean, we have revisitation of past life people.
Hmm.
um Venus in retrograde, I can't tell you how many Venus in retrograde people I know, and I see the relationships that they're in, and I'm like, that is super karmic. Like, and karmic, I
Yeah.
feel like covers soulmates, twin flames, like everything that Jesse said, counterparts, like soul contracts, like um and it's lessons around the heart space. That's the whole point. And it's revisitation. It's not nothing you haven't seen before. So a lot of times people can view from the outside like, oh, that person's, it seems like they're like reviewing the same thing, or there's like a theme with like people, and that's also with marriage and commitment. So Venus in or Juno in retrograde, I say this. So there could be oftentimes like you meet somebody that you see as like a long-term partner, like you have a very long-term relationship with somebody, and then that one gets cleared away and then another could come in. So I see this sometimes with like Uranus with Juno in retrograde, Juno in the 12th house. Like there's somebody that the universe has in mind as like this marriage partner, or sometimes it is a marriage, and um then that one gets cleared, and then like the person that like you're meant to, because the retrograde can kind of be like karmic in a way where there needs to be like karmic justice too, you
Mm,
know? So
like a balancing.
yeah, no, it's like bringing everything into balance. But for sure, like around after your Saturn return, I could see, and but like unexplored territory too. Like this is on your north node, so this is still something where like commitment. Where's your? I mean, you have Saturn in retrograde. That a retrograded Saturn means that in this lifetime you're learning about commitment, like how to commit to something through discipline. And so we have a friend. Um, I mean, with Saturn in Aquarius, it's like you're learning how to have the best qualities of Aquarius. So I'm releasing any of those like lower qualities. So it could be like the need to like be independent, or like overly dependent, or like South Node in the 11th, like, you know. So I feel like uh yeah, it's something that works for you in long-term relationships. Your descendant is in
Pisces.
Pisces. So Pisces energy, Capricorn energy, the way that you approach relationships is Piscean energy. It's because it's the energy that you're subconsciously attracted to. Ascendant is the conscious energy. We default to it, very conscious of it. Descendant is the subconscious. So, I mean, the fact that you have Juno on Neptune too, North Node on Neptune, the person that you meet, I really, really believe are going to like help to bring in more spirituality to you, help to bring in these higher concepts of unconditional love, of generosity, of being really talented with things beyond the physical. Like it could be something that transcends ordinary reality to you, is like the
Yeah.
relationship that you're in.
Yeah, yeah. And I think also like it could be something like that gets you past a certain like a karmic tendency, because like with the retrograde Venus, there's like, you know, like there can be that potential for codependency, but it is in your you know, it's opposite your descendant Venus, right? So that's what's kind of interesting, right? Is that there's a big split romantically here between this more like kind of like Sagittarius, like very like Neptunian, like kind of like very like romantic and liberated type of love, but then also the Virgo, right? Which Virgo like love language is very much like practical, you know, and so Juno in Capricorn also, I think of like the need for stability, and maybe that could come from like if that Pluto in the IC is, you know, really showing up or really did show up in the childhood, maybe there could be something with like um I don't know, like something that happened early on and could be karmic as well, that really makes you need that real assuredness, you know, to really like know for sure that you can trust this person. So that could definitely be something for sure. But yeah, just with like the Venus ascendant, I just feel like or Venus opposite or on the descent or opposite descendant, I think yeah, it's just really going back to what I was saying earlier, it's just really important to not have love be like romantic love just be everything, you know. And when your purpose is kind of like, I mean, of course it's very important, everyone wants to have like a good relationship, um but I feel like sometimes in Haley, I don't know what you think of like the Venus and retro. You have a lot of friends. I don't know many people with it. I mean, besides clients, but I feel like a lot of times they yeah, they can put, they're here to like break down something when it comes to self love that then gets projected to relationships. So I think like when we put these all together, it's like, you know, the freedom but also the stability. So it's like like I think the perfect relationship would be like you having created like a really solid foundation, and then within that foundation, like you have the trust, you have like the respect for the person, that they, you know, it's someone who's doing something on your own, on their own, maybe they're like, respected, and like there's someone who's like respected in the world. They have a purpose, right? They're not just like a bum. Like there's someone who's really doing something that you really respect. Um, and then within that fun energy coming out, romantic energy, that kind of twin, the energy we're talking about coming out of like the twin flame, kind of very romantic. But last thing I'll say about that, like, and also yeah, with Pisces descendant, that's also with the Neptune. But I think that I would take great, like, whether you're single or with some or not or married or whatever right now. I think like if I had your chart, I would be like, wow, like there's literally nothing I need to worry about in that area of life because everything is so faded, um, that whatever's meant to happen for your greater good will happen.
That was I really like that interpretation. Um,
Thank you.
yeah, I mean with the North Node, you have North Node oriented placements, so I already like that. It's a huge indication that like where the direction and when you're where you're meant to go in terms of like soul fulfillment, if you want to like do the work and go towards that it's going to happen through like very spiritual experiences, and then through that with karma on the South Node, like you liberate yourself from some of the Cancer South Node things, which can be like overly emotional, which can be like and with Moon in the fourth we kind of see that too with like some alchemization of the emotional like foundation. Pluto conjunct icy alchemy of the um emotional foundation. Anytime people have like harder aspects in like the Cancer department, like karma in Cancer, South Node in Cancer, I find that like releasing like emotions and kind of especially with Capricorn. Like I have both in my chart, and like I really like that you have a lot of Capricorn placements and the North Nodes there, and like it seems like there are people that are going to literally come in to help you feel more childlike, to help you become more grounded, practical, and release some of that like heavy, dense, like Cancer energy, like of feeling so much. There's a lot of subconscious energies. I mean, being an empath, like these things can come at a cost of like being too in the subconscious, being too in the feelings. Like, so I think Cancer at its best, like the gifts that you have from Cancer, because there's definitely gifts with karma and South Node there, is the fact that you are empathetic, is the fact that you are really nurturing, is the fact that and nurturing I think the most comes from like your Sarah's like sextiling your Venus and your Mercury, like having a way with words for sure. Um and helping people, Saturn in the sixth, being of service and like more so like helping people makes us feel good. So it's kind of like learning like how to navigate those emotions. And like emotions are so powerful though. Like your ability to feel happy, your ability to feel joy, your ability to feel wonder, to feel nostalgic, like your ability to feel is your superpower. There's also some things around releasing the ability to feel so much, and like um yeah, definitely with like Neptune and Capricorn too, and just North Node in Capricorn. I tell people that the Neptune and Capricorn generation is our ability. I mean, I say ability, but it's like how a lot of our generation struggles with depression. They say Neptune and Capricorn can be like putting on like a depression cloak, where sometimes we can easily just kind of get like down on ourselves. Like that could be something too with like South Node and Cancer. Like if there are some like South Node transits, or like anytime the moon is in Cancer, like or anytime around Cancer season, there could be like a lot of like navigating feelings all over again and like really testing that psychological foundation. But as you get older, everything points to you like utilizing this as more power and like leaning into the like mind and heart space, you know. Um, yeah.
Yeah, totally, totally, totally. And I think, yeah, I definitely get the same vibe that, because like, yeah, just also I want to tell you, like, because like with the Pluto on the IC, like, usually a lot of astrologers, like, it is 8 degrees away. So different astrologers use different orbs, meaning like some astrologers would say this is too far away to have an impact. I was just looked it up, and like it says here like maximum of 6. So if it doesn't resonate, just know that like, because like when I'm saying this, like I'm not saying this with like full conviction, like with the Pluto on the IC, like because you do have a sun trine moon, which usually is like pretty good for childhood, or just like like at least the parents getting on with each other. Um, but yeah, I just want to add that in there. But if there's like just so much like past life stuff when it comes to Pluto on the IC. It's like it's like there's like these like really like dark. There can be like these really dark subconscious memories kind of etched into your mind, and like they just come up and you don't know what they are, you don't know where they're coming from. It can be like this like really, and a lot of times there's one parent that was like like I said, like it could be absent, it could be cruel, it could be like controlling, it could be just doing something that was like very very difficult for um because like a lot of times it's like the early experiences of that sort form the basis for the life and for the relationships later on. So that's what I was saying earlier about, because like Pluto also, if it does it square, let me see, it is 17, so it doesn't square your descendant, but um basically it's still that same energy of like you to have the best relationships, like just that inner work is needed. um but yeah, with the fourth house moon, I think that you will be someone who yeah, there definitely is kind of like a scorpionic vibe to the Antares, and I think it's a heart, it's a tail of the scorpion, yeah, I'm pretty sure, but like yeah, just like I think just understanding that emotions can kind of go back and forth, but the fact that you have all this earth is such a blessing because you can be very grounded and solid within yourself. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah. As far as like some fun love stuff. So I mean another thing really quickly, I just wanted to mention that with MC and Taurus, like you are at your highest and like there's a lot of genius within Venus stuff. So like finance, money, um, your own sensuality. Like I said, you probably have good taste in stuff. I mean, I feel like Regulus people are so extra with what they like. They like what they like. And I love when like Regulus people put me on to stuff because I feel like they have the best taste. It's like more of
Thank
like a
you.
little bit of like, yeah, you're welcome, Jesse. No, Jesse's put me on to like coffee. Jesse's put me on to music. Jesse's put me on to so much. But like, um, yeah, like Regulus individuals I love so much. And like with Aggle too, like you're really like you're really well, you're a major star seed. So um star seeds tend to cultivate like unconditional love. I feel like because you just lived in different areas galactically in different timelines where you've experienced higher levels of consciousness. But yeah, living from the heart space, really good. And then so like I said, like so your descendant is in Pisces. So what works for you, what I find with the descendant is there people can have a lot of good qualities that you like your Venus. You might like people that you can have like good intellectual conversations with. This is very, very important. Your link asteroid, which is who we typically just click with, is in Gemini, which also points to having like fun inside jokes, like sharing what you like with other people, like good repertoire, like hours and hours conversations, like you I think that's something that you could like, or just depending on what your communication style is, just intellectual stimulation, perhaps somebody who puts you on to new things, questions things, expands your mind. um we can like those things a lot, right? Like that's something that we really really enjoy. When it comes to actual commitment, when it comes to the best way to approach long-term relationships, there's also this side where I feel like somebody can have a lot of qualities that you like, but if they are missing your descendant sign qualities, it would be very hard for that person to like make up for that lack of energy. So yours is in Pisces. Um, somebody who's emotionally intelligent too. I mean, you're a
Hmm.
South Node in Cancer, so like for you to feel really comfortable, I think with a moon in the fourth house, like somebody who has emotional intelligence is big. Somebody who kind of understand, like somebody wise, I feel like is what you'll be gravitated towards with Juno and Pisces. Like someone who's very naive in life or still has a lot of emotional work to do, or someone who doesn't really learn from their mistakes or like just thinks in a really, really narrow way, I feel like could I mean, that could just be like a big deal breaker. Because it kind of with the moon, the emotional needs I feel like wouldn't be met. I feel like somebody who's open minded, it kind of like goes into like your mutable Venus, your mutable link, your mutable descendant, somebody who can kind of flow, like somebody who can ask you questions, somebody who can be flexible. I think is big, and your Amor asteroid, which Amor is more so like our ideal love. Like that's the ideal. It's not so much what we need, it's the ideal. Like it's what we like. Um that's in Pisces. That's also in the seventh house. So I feel like you like commitment. I feel like you like people who are willing, like if they're going to show up for you, I think you really want them to show up for you, to be somebody you can rely on, somebody that is practical, somebody who uh I mean, with Pisces too, I feel like, again, that unconditional love. Pisces energy is the higher octave of Venus. So I feel like there must be some depth, or else you would just have Venus placements
Mm.
as like the what you want in love. But Capricorn's also very deep. You know, Capricorns go through things. So I feel like somebody who has a lot of experience or has gone through things could also be somebody that you're really attracted to, like somebody who has a story, somebody who came up, somebody who came from nothing, somebody who like has experienced a lot of the world, or it doesn't even have to come from a darker place that they've gone through. They could help the world and like really have made a difference. Like I feel like somebody who just is layered in that way could be somebody that like you really enjoy, somebody who's strategic, somebody who has good values, somebody who can show up, be present, spend time, you know.
Yeah. 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 So it's interesting how it all kind of comes together. Um, yeah, just like and this is common, right? It's not uncommon because we're all multifaceted people, and there might be one part of us that needs stability and the foundations to be reliability, right? That's Venus and Virgo. It's all about reliability and um for example, like a lot, like with all that Virgo, it's like, I'd imagine you're a very organized, clean person. I imagine that you take very good care of your physique and of your look and all that. So I don't think that you would really like to be with someone who is a slob, you know? Not that you couldn't, but I feel, so that's one aspect. But then I think, yeah, like what we've been saying is like, I think that you need like your soul is here to learn how to dream and um and to really like move towards independence and to learn how to dream and to find deeper compassion, whether it's through service or whether it's through creativity or whether it's just through delving deep into spirituality, into your own spiritual journey. So and then also with Uranus, conjunct North Node, um it's about you being your own individual, you not being held back by societal standards, you moving. And that's kind of the difficulty with Capricorn North Node sometimes, is that they can be a little bit, or just Capricorn as a sign sometimes can be a little bit, not all the time, but it can be a little bit caring too much what people think. So it's about, yeah, really moving into understanding that you're not like everyone else, that you are you, and finding that like fifth house is about authentic self-expression. So finding, like who you truly are, and that could be through some type of creative process, through your work, through anything. But the last thing I'll say about that is that, yeah, just getting away from like when it comes to friends, groups of people, organizations, anything you're part of, it's really important to not be in one that keeps you in this kind of conditioning, where there's bad boundaries, where the values don't align with yours. Because yeah, yeah, you're here to really find yourself creatively, whatever that means to you.
Yep, I agree. And sometimes too, like the fifth house, North Node, fifth house vertex. I mean, a lot of times this can point to having a creative dharma. Doesn't always have to be. I mean, your midhaven is in Taurus, so I wouldn't be surprised if you leaned into like the material world as like your career. But for sure, as far as like, I don't always think career has to be linked to purpose. With yours, you
Yeah.
definitely could be, just like Jesse said, fifth house in Capricorn. But Capricorn also wants to leave behind a legacy, so whether that's your children, creation is the sixth house. So creation of children, creation of art, creation of whatever you create that you consider like your babies, you know, could could be a big part of your legacy. It could be a big part of that. So if there is any part of you that feels unfulfilled by maybe like a more monetary purpose or a career or something like that, definitely don't be afraid to lean into just doing what you want for fun. Anything that really like allows you to be a child again is such a big part of your purpose. Like, and probably having the financial means to do so is the key to the liberation here with like fifth house Capricorns.
Definitely, yeah. And like I always tell people, like some people are meant to have, to work. Like a lot of people that are healers, um, don't start it young, like my mom studied acupuncture after she divorced my dad, well after, like she's probably like 40, or older. So yeah, so like it's just different person to person, and sometimes we're meant to work in, like, yeah, like I mean there's no doubt that you have a go-getter mindset and energy. um but yeah, there's just so much potential and just so important for you to feel like you're expanding, to feel like you're learning. Like that's probably what made you want to get this reading, like you probably, your friend probably told you about, how it was for her, and that Sagittarian curiosity, that Jupiterian curiosity, that desire to expand intuitively was like, oh, I want to have that experience for myself. I want to see what they say about me. But you realize that not everyone thinks like that. Not everyone gives a shit. Not everyone's open minded enough to have that thought. So that's a very good indication of who you are, just that in itself. So yeah.
um I think, let's see, I mean, you do have like a grand trine. It involves vertex, so that's like a hypothetical point that's not always just in the birth chart, but it is showing up with everything that we put. So I will just like tap into it a little bit. You have a grand trine, an earth grand trine. Earth grand trines point to monetary success. They point to like past life gifts around stability. The people that you're fated to encounter are directly correlated to your career, are directly correlated to tapping into your highest genius. It's also connected to Mars in the first, the ability to go after what you want, you identifying as somebody who is a go getter. This energy is definitely seen here. Got all three modalities when we have a grand trine most of the time. So yours is, and that's a past life gift. That's something that was definitely set up. So that I just touch on that.
Yeah, definitely. And also kind of off topic, but you said in the emails like just like about you and your Gabriella. So I pulled her chart up and I just wanted to like just really, really basic. It's kind of interesting actually. Um, so she has a ton of so we were talking about your vertex, how like faded people for you are Capricorns, or like there's like a Capricorn emphasis, and she has like everything in Capricorn. So, and then what's cool is also that her vertex is in Virgo, and you have all that Virgo. So, um, you know, it's definitely like a faded. There's definitely a level of fate in your guys' relationship. I'll just, and you guys have the same Chiron also. So, you guys are trying to, you guys have kind of the same core wound, and perhaps help each other, um, in that sense. But I think, also what's really interesting about you guys is that she's a Capricorn Sun Cancer Moon, which is literally your North Node and South Node. So she's an embodiment of your karma. So being around her activates your South Node gifts and your North Node. So she helps you kind of move towards and you guys have the same nodes. You guys are born around like 1 year separate. So or not even 1 year. So you guys have the same nodes. So yeah, you guys are definitely like there's definitely a real big effect you guys have on each other. But it's it's the relationship astrology, like that's like a whole nother super crazy long reading. And it gets really intense, but I just want to give you a little touch of something.
Yeah. I love North Node oriented relationships because it's showing that I tell people like that it's good for that person to be in your life. Like, even sometimes through like the bad, that person still is part of like what is like newer for you. It's energy that pulls you closer there just by being in their energy. And then there's like on the flip side, I mean, um, that's just like if there's rough times, like if there's anything like that, which I think with karmic relationships, there's always like there can be those like trials or like those time periods, but it's always like who we trust the most that we experience that with on a deep soul level, even if like the soul contract like is meant to end or even like whatever, you know. But I think that with you and Gabrielle, like it's giving me a lot more of like that more positive effect on each other. Like I did Gabrielle and yours synastry like when I did her Atlantis reading, so I already know that you and Gabrielle go way back like on a soul level. But like for her to have so much Capricorn placements, I mean, Juno is the soul contract asteroid, so she was definitely like not only somebody that you were meant to have like a long-term connection with, but Gabrielle and the qualities that Gabrielle has is actually what works for you in any long-term relationship. So um yeah, North Node relationships are awesome. And then in vice versa, the fact that you do the same for her, with your heart space, your mind, the way that you talk, it's all the energy that she was fated to encounter as well. So, oh, Mika, we got
Thank
two
you.
cats in
Thank
this
you.
reading. Lucky us.
Yeah, Mika's a rare one. So that's a really
Hmm.
good sign for you.
Oh, hi, Mika.
Good girl.
Yeah,
Good bike.
Jesse, is there anything else that you wanted to add? Or you feel like there's anything?
No, I feel like we covered everything in very great detail. It's interesting. I mean, like compared to the other charts we've done, there's very few aspects. So I mean, there's a lot of conjunctions, but yeah, it's I don't know. I don't feel a bunch of like but depending on how that Pluto IC thing plays out, like I don't know. I don't feel a bunch of confusion with this chart. Like it feels quite straightforward, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like opposition square, like all these like a million different aspects and things going on. It is kind of yeah, there's some duality, but yeah, I think it's gonna find her well. Hopefully she enjoys. You enjoy.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was great doing your chart. It's a great chart. There was like a good mix of like heart space stuff, logic, a big spiritual journey, lots of emphasis on relationships, and I think we tapped into like a lot of the ideal love um, aspects and 12th house, inner child stuff, the Regulus, the fact that you're linked to the royal fixed stars, the Antares, the Aggle that we talked about. Yeah, so thank you so much for deciding to purchase a reading. We appreciate your support a lot. Had a lot of fun with this one.
Yeah, thank you so much. Nika says thank you too. Um, that's a Mika dance. She's actually purring. She's not like she actually likes this. But yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, like if you ever want to book anything with me or Haley, we both offer different types of readings. So yeah, I think for me it's everything on my website, justiceastrology.com. A lot of people with me usually want to, after they get a reading, they usually want to get a follow-up and a current astrology reading. And how about you, Haley?
Yeah, I think if there's anything in your chart that you really wanted to dive into more, like starseed stuff, uh, I mean, I mentioned Atlantis for like Gabrielle, but like any asteroid stuff, I really work with a lot of the asteroids. So if there's anything specific that you're wanting to dive into, I have like a lot of different types of readings. So just depends on what you're drawn to, what you like. And if you have questions about this reading, you can email us too. Let us know if you have anything.
Yeah, definitely. And also, like it's a great exercise, and feel free. Like I always love to have people like write, like let's say like you don't want to get like another reading, or this is, which is totally normal, no pressure or anything like that. But I'm just saying, like if this is everything, like I would like, it'd be awesome to receive like something written about your, like kind of how, like your reflection. It's a very good exercise to get the reading. A lot of people have to watch these readings like a bunch of times. It cuts very deep. But yeah, to like, I mean, feel free to like send either one of us just like something written if you feel like it, but no pressure. And thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Jenna. Take it easy.
Ciao.
Bye.